Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to Real Talk Real Estate episode 21. Tonight I'm going to be talking about some specific questions that you should be asking your agent if you're looking at buying a home. Now, I want to go ahead and first off shout out my buddy Tyler Hines with TRH Mortgage. This actually came inspiration from an article he posted just a few days ago, and I wanted to make sure that I gave him some credit on that. So I will make sure to link to his page down below in the comments after I post this video, as well as making sure that I link to the article where this information came from so you can take a look at that as well. But there are certain questions that often get overlooked by a lot of buyers, and I actually had an opportunity to talk to a new buyer who is getting into the home searching market here soon today, and these were some questions that I passed along to him. Kind of just went ahead and let him know about these on the front end, because when I'm working with a buyer, the thing that I like to do more than anything else is try to educate them on the process as much as possible on the front end so that they know what they're getting into, so that by the time we get into a house, they're going to know what they like about the home, why they like it, and they're going to be able to know to answer and ask these questions before we ever consider making an offer. I like to tell my clients that I treat every single one of them as if they have no idea what they're doing, because I want to make sure I'm explaining everything so fully that by the time we get through to the closing, they're as educated on the home as I am, because it just makes everything so much smoother and so much easier throughout the process. So the first question that I think everybody needs to think about and ask their agent when they're looking at a home is, what are the property taxes? That's one of those things that often gets overlooked, that people just go into their lender and they ask questions about what price the home is, what they can afford on a monthly payment, what their pre-approval rate is, but they don't consider the property tax impact that might have on the monthly payment, especially if they're escrowing their taxes, because with those property taxes being escrowed, that is actually going to have a direct reflection on their monthly payment, because those will be split up and collected as they're making their house payment. The other thing is, it's a good idea to take a look at the exemptions that are currently on the property, especially here in southern Indiana where I work. We pay our property taxes in arrears, so we're actually paying the taxes for the previous year. So it's a good idea to take a look at what those exemptions are that the seller had in place and try to get an idea of whether or not those are going to be the same ones that you qualify for. Generally, most people who are purchasing a home as their primary residence who have a mortgage on the property are going to have a homestead and a mortgage exemption. Those are the most typical kind. Now, the great thing about most of the title companies in our area is they provide, or actually all the title companies in our area, provide a list of all the exemptions that are currently available in the state of Indiana that they may qualify for. With this list, at or after the closing, the buyer has the opportunity to read through all of those to see if there's any additional exemptions that they may be able to qualify for, to make sure that they are taking advantage of those so that they're not paying too high of property taxes. But that is definitely a question you want to ask prior to putting an offer on a home. The second one is there a homeowners association? Now, this question is actually twofold, because it can have two different impacts, or both of them simultaneously on a person's purchase for a home they're looking at. First off, if you're in a homeowners association, there may be a mandatory membership where they have specific rules of the association that you have to abide by. Those can range from anything on the type of materials that you're allowed to use to build a fence, or whether or not you're allowed to put up a shed or any other type of outbuilding. I've even seen some that limit the number of vehicles that you can have parked at a car, or the number of vehicles that you may be able to have parked out in the driveway overnight, and say that you have to have them parked inside a garage. There's a lot of things that people don't realize that can be covered by a homeowners association rules, so it's a good idea to know what those are prior to making any offer on a property. The second thing on a homeowners association is there could be some cost associated with that. A lot of associations have several amenities, or like a community clubhouse or pool, tennis courts, other great things that there may be a cost associated with those to make sure that they're maintaining the subdivision and those public amenities. Sometimes you're going to have both. So you definitely want to ask that question when you're getting into any kind of property that may possibly have some sort of homeowners association associated with the property that you're looking at purchasing. Number 3, are there any changes on the horizon in the neighborhood? Now, the first thing I want to do is make a disclaimer here that no agent has a crystal ball. I get a question all the time from almost everybody. Can you tell me what the home is going to be worth in X number of years? The truth is we can make projections based on numbers that we've seen in historical data. We can make projections based on things that we can see have happened in the neighborhoods around it, but there's no way to know for sure what your property value is going to do at any point in the future. That's my first disclaimer. But knowing that, I also want to make sure that you know that agents are well versed in what's happening in the local community. It's my job to know not only what's going on with the real estate industry as a whole, but what's going on in the marketplace where I serve. I always know upcoming restaurants or different changes in the economy, different factories that are increasing employment, decreasing employment, all kinds of things that can have an impact on local subdivisions or neighborhoods or other things. Those are things that I try to stay up on so that I can give good information to the buyers, that when they're asking me questions about neighborhoods that they're interested in moving into, I can give them that kind of information so they can make informed decisions. All good realtors are going to be able to answer those questions for you. So when you're working with a realtor, make sure that you ask that kind of question, because they're obviously going to be able to point you in the right direction and give you great advice on that subject. Number 4. Another one that gets overlooked by a lot of people when they're looking at their pre-approval is utility costs on a home. This is something that a lot of people never ask, and it actually kind of amazes me. I always do my due diligence, pull up all that information to make sure that we're looking at that whenever we're going into any house with any buyer that I'm working with. If that is information that's available on our MLS system, I always have that with me. A lot of people don't ever consider the fact that when they get pre-approved for a mortgage, that there are other costs that are not associated with that pre-approval. One of those being the utility costs. Your lender does not take that into consideration when they're doing your pre-approval, because that is not an actual debt that they can look at. That is one of those things that some people don't realize has to be taken care of outside of the pre-approval process. Now, I've been in homes before where the utility costs are astronomical because they don't have proper insulation because it's an older home, or other things that are associated with that people don't realize that they can be as high as or even higher than their house payment at times, which is definitely something you don't want to get into. So if you're looking at a pre-approval amount of say $120,000 and you're looking at the very, very top of your price range, one of the best things you need to do is take a look at those utility costs, because they can have a big impact on your lifestyle whenever you're looking at a home. Now, the last question I'm going to talk about tonight is, how long has the home been on the market? Great question to ask, but contrary to popular belief, does not always necessarily give you the answer you may be thinking it does. And what I mean by that is, the length of time that a home has been on the market, the longer it is, the most likely it is that people think that there's something wrong with it. I'm sure you said it to yourself as you were watching this video. That's not always the case. There could be other extenuating circumstances or other factors that play into the amount of time that home has been on the market. Sometimes, I recently just had a home that I sold that we had it on the market for a few months. Average marketing time in our area is about 66 days. We were right around the 90-day mark, so not an extremely long period of time. But we had a few people say, well, why has the home been on the market so long? They didn't take into consideration that it was actually on the market through all the holidays, plus a couple of snowstorms that kept people from being out and about and looking at homes part of that time. So that is something that may be an indication that there's something wrong with the home, but it may not be. The other thing is that if a home's been on the market a little bit longer, it could give you some insight on the type of negotiator that the seller might be. In addition to knowing how long it's been on the market, it's a great idea to ask, have they had any offers? It's a good thing to kind of know if they've had multiple offers and it's been on the market for a while and they haven't been able to get anything worked out. That probably means that the seller is not going to be all that negotiable on their price. Knowing that before you make an offer is a good way to kind of have in your mind whether or not you're going to come at them with your highest and best offer to begin with and just say, hey, this is it. Are you good with this? Take it or leave it. Or if you think you might be able to try to negotiate back and forth, those are key factors that you may be able to utilize or have your agent utilize to try to get those questions answered before you put that offer in. So I've been watching the live video here, trying to watch to see if there's any comments, not seeing any come up, but I will share this video and leave it active on my page, as I always do. So if you have any other questions, or you think of questions that you want to know about that you think anybody needs to know, let me know in the comments down below. In addition, if you know anyone or have any friends who are talking about buying a home this year, make sure you share this video with them so they know that these are great questions that they can ask whenever they're working with an agent and looking at homes. In addition, I will go ahead and link to the article that I found from Tyler's Facebook page, as well as linking to his page, so that if you have any questions about the loan process or anything else, you can just go ahead and message Tyler Hines. He's a great a great lender that I've worked with several times. He would be happy to help out and answer any of those questions that he can. As always, feel free to send me a message or leave me a comment with any other topics that you'd love to hear about on Real Talk Real Estate. My goal is to make sure that I'm providing the most value that I can to the community and trying to help everyone out with any questions they might have about buying or selling homes or anything in the real estate industry. You can leave me a message, or you can even give me a call at 812-779-6273, or you can tweet me at Aaron Advantage, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thanks for checking out Real Talk Real Estate. Can't wait to see you next week. Have a good night.